Okay, so ready to have your mind blown? We're diving into adipokines today.
Adipokines.
Yeah. And you know how we always thought of fat as just this like passive energy store?
Right.
It's actually sending out messages all the time.
It is. Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
I know.
These little messengers called adipokines are like changing the way we think about metabolism.
I'm already intrigued and we're just getting started.
Yeah.
We've got some great research from Assay Genie to guide us.
Okay.
They're the folks who create the tools that scientists use,
Right.
so we're getting this straight from the lab, basically.
Excellent source.
Yeah.
Assay Genie is really at the forefront of this research, so we're in good hands.
So we're going to meet some of the key players.
Yeah.
Leptin, adiponectin,
Yes.
resistin, visfatin.
Uh-huh.
Each one has a different role, but they all influence how our bodies use energy,
Right.
especially when it comes to insulin.
And it's that connection to insulin that makes it so important.
Yeah.
Think of it like a delicate dance. Adipokines and insulin signaling are constantly interacting, influencing each other. When the rhythm's off, that's when we see issues like obesity and diabetes.
Okay, so before we get into that dance, let's back up a bit. For those of us who don't spend all day in the lab, what exactly are adipokines?
Simply put, they're signaling molecules produced by adipose tissue, which is our body fat.
Okay.
But here's the thing. It's not just an inert storage depot anymore.
Okay.
It's an active endocrine organ, just like your thyroid or your pancreas.
Wait, so my fat is actually communicating with the rest of my body. I never thought of it that way. What kind of messages are we talking about here?
Well, these messages influence a wide range of functions. Appetite, energy expenditure, even inflammation and insulin sensitivity. Take leptin, for example. It's produced by fat cells and signals to the brain that we're full, helping to regulate appetite and energy balance.
Ah, leptin, the one that everyone blames for those late night snacks. But if leptin is supposed to tell us we're full, why do so many people struggle with overeating?
Well, that's where things get a little complicated. In obesity, we often see what's called leptin resistance. The brain becomes less sensitive to leptin signals, so even though there's plenty of leptin circulating, the "I'm full" message isn't getting through.
So it's like having a broken doorbell. You keep ringing, but no one's home.
That's a great analogy. And this resistance is a key factor in the development of obesity and related metabolic issues. But it's not just about appetite. Leptin also plays a crucial role in insulin sensitivity.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. How does leptin impact how our bodies use insulin?
Leptin can actually enhance insulin sensitivity by influencing certain pathways inside our cells. When leptin binds to its receptor, it sets off a chain reaction that ultimately helps insulin do its job more effectively.
So when leptin's working properly, it's like a well-oiled machine helping insulin move glucose into cells for energy.
Precisely. But when leptin resistance develops, that well-oiled machine starts to sputter, and insulin can't function as efficiently, potentially leading to elevated blood sugar levels.
Got it. So leptin can be a friend or foe depending on whether or not there's resistance. This is all starting to make sense. Now, I remember you mentioned adiponectin, the good guy, when it comes to metabolism,
Right.
the SIT story.
Adiponectin is fascinating because it actually improves insulin sensitivity and promotes the burning of fat for fuel. It's like having a personal trainer inside your cells, encouraging them to use energy efficiently.
That's pretty awesome. So the more adiponectin, the better.
In general, yes. Higher levels of adiponectin are associated with improved metabolic health. But here's the catch. Adiponectin levels tend to be lower in people with obesity, which further contributes to insulin resistance.
Ah, so it's another piece of that intricate dance you were talking about.
Exactly.
If leptin's like the appetite regulator and adiponectin is the metabolic booster, what about resistin? What role does it play?
Resistance is a bit more of a puzzle. Some research suggests that it might actually interfere with insulin signaling, possibly contributing to insulin resistance.
Yeah.
But we still need more research to fully understand its role.
Okay, so potentially a troublemaker in the mix?
Yeah, potentially.
And then there's visfatin. You said it was a bit of a mystery.
Visfatin is intriguing because it seems to have insulin-like effects, potentially helping to regulate glucose levels.
Yeah.
But its exact role in insulin resistance is still unclear. It's an area of active research, and we're just beginning to understand its complexities.
So we've got leptin sending those I'm full signals, adiponectin boosting metabolism, resistantly potentially causing trouble, and visfatin still shrouded in mystery. But how does all of this connect to insulin signaling? Can you walk us through how insulin actually works in the body?
Absolutely. Insulin is a crucial hormone that helps regulate blood sugar levels. Think of it as a key that unlocks the doors of our cells, allowing glucose to enter and be used for energy.
Okay, that makes sense. But I've heard about all these complex pathways involved in insulin signaling. What are those all about?
Well, when insulin binds to its receptor on a cell, it triggers a cascade of events inside the cell. These events activate specific pathways, like the PI3Kx pathway, which plays a critical role in moving glucose from the bloodstream into cells.
So insulin is like the messenger, and these pathways are the workers carrying out the instructions.
Exactly. And the efficiency of those workers can be influenced by the messages coming from adipokines. That's where that intertwined dance between these systems really comes into play.
All right, so we've got these adipokines sending out messages,
Right.
insulin trying to do its job, and these internal pathways responding to the signals. It sounds like a lot of moving parts.
It is, and when everything's in sync, it's a beautiful symphony of metabolic harmony. But when things get out of whack, that's when we see problems like insulin resistance and the development of metabolic disorders.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. So how do each of these adipokines we've discussed affect that delicate balance of insulin signaling?
Let's start with leptin. When it's functioning correctly, leptin can actually enhance insulin sensitivity, helping those pathways work more efficiently.
So leptin is like the conductor making sure the orchestra is playing in tune.
A perfect analogy. But remember, when lectin resistance develops, that's when the music starts to fall apart. The signals get muddled and insulin can't do its job as effectively.
Right, that makes sense. What about adiponectin? How does it fit into the picture?
Adiponectin is a strong supporter of insulin sensitivity. It can activate specific pathways that help enhance insulin's effects. Think of it as the lead violinist, making sure the melody is clear and strong.
Got it. So when adiponectin levels are high, insulin can do its job more effectively, keeping those blood sugar levels in check.
Precisely. But as we discussed, lower adiponectin levels often seen in obesity can weaken that melody, making it harder for insulin to do its job.
Okay, what about resistin? Is it playing a discordant note in this metabolic symphony?
It might be. Resistance seems to have the potential to interfere with insulin signaling, perhaps by activating pathways that counteract insulin's effects. But more research is needed to understand its exact role.
So resistin could be that mischievous drummer throwing off the rhythm of the orchestra?
That's a possibility. And it's an area that scientists are actively researching. We're still trying to decipher its musical cues.
And finally, what about visfatin? How does that mysterious adipokine fit into this orchestral arrangement?
Visfatin is interesting because it might actually be playing a similar tune to insulin potentially promoting glucose uptake. But its precise role in insulin resistance is still unclear.
So it could be like a guest musician, maybe filling in for the cello or adding a harmonious counterpoint.
That's a great way to put it. We're still trying to figure out its exact place in the orchestra, but it's clear that it's part of the ensemble.
Wow, who knew there was so much going on beneath the surface? I'm starting to see just how complex this interplay between adipokines and insulin signaling really is.
It's a fascinating world, isn't it? And the more we learn about these intricate connections, the better equipped we are to understand and address metabolic health.
This has been incredibly enlightening. Before we move on, let's take a moment to let all of this sink in. We'll be back in a flash to continue our deep dive into the world of adipokines and insulin signaling. All right, we're back and ready to keep exploring this amazing world of adipokines. We've just scratched the surface of how these messengers from our fat cells impact insulin signaling.
Right, and as we delve deeper, we'll start to see how this knowledge can actually empower us to make informed choices about our metabolic health.
That's what I'm really curious about. You mentioned earlier that researchers are exploring ways to modulate adipokine levels or improve insulin sensitivity. What are some of the promising strategies they're looking at?
Well, one area that's particularly exciting is the role of lifestyle interventions. Studies have shown that regular exercise, especially aerobic exercise, can actually increase adiponectin levels.
So it makes sense. We all know exercise is good for us, but it's amazing to think that it can actually boost levels of this good guy adipokine.
It really highlights the power of lifestyle choices.
Yeah.
And it's not just exercise.
Yeah.
Even modest weight loss has been shown to improve leptin sensitivity.
So by shedding a few pounds, our brains might start to hear those I'm full signals from leptin again.
Exactly. It helps to restore that crucial balance in the energy regulation system.
That's incredibly encouraging. You know, it means we have some control over how these adipokines function. What about pharmaceutical approaches? Are there any medications that are specifically designed to target adipokines?
While there aren't any drugs currently approved for directly modulating adipokines, there are some existing medications that may have indirect effects. For example, thiazolidinediones, a class of drugs used to treat type 2 diabetes, have been shown to increase adiponectin levels.
So they're primarily used to manage blood sugar,
Right.
but they also have this bonus effect of boosting adiponectin.
Precisely. It underscores the interconnectedness of these metabolic systems.
Yeah.
And beyond those existing drugs, researchers are actively developing new therapies that specifically target adipokines or components of the insulin signaling pathway.
That's exciting. What are some examples of those cutting-edge therapies?
One promising area of research is the development of leptin sensitizers. These drugs would essentially help restore the brain's responsiveness to leptin signals, potentially aiding in weight management and improving insulin sensitivity.
So it's like giving those I'm full signals a megaphone so the brain can finally hear them.
Exactly. And on the adiponectin front, researchers are exploring strategies to increase its levels, including the development of adiponectin agonists, which mimic adiponectin's actions. There's even interest in exploring gene therapies that could enhance adiponectin production.
Wow, gene therapy for adipokines. That sounds incredibly futuristic. It's amazing to think how far this research has come and the potential it holds for future treatments.
It truly is a remarkable field. And as we continue to unlock the secrets of these adipokines, we'll be better equipped to develop targeted therapies that can make a real difference in people's lives.
It's inspiring to hear about all of this progress. But I'm also curious, are there things we can do in our everyday lives beyond exercise and weight loss that can support healthy adipokine function?
That's a great question. And while more research is needed, some studies suggest that certain dietary choices might play a role.
Interesting, like what kinds of foods?
Foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids found in oily fish like salmon and tuna have been linked to increased adiponectin levels. There's also evidence that a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains can benefit overall metabolic health, potentially, including adipokine function.
So it seems like those classic principles of healthy eating still hold true. Lots of colorful produce, whole grains, healthy fats.
Absolutely. Those foundational principles can have a significant impact on these intricate metabolic processes, including the balance of adipokines and insulin signaling.
It's remarkable to think that something as simple as choosing a salmon fillet over a steak could influence these microscopic messengers inside our bodies.
It's a testament to the power of our everyday choices and their impact on our health. And beyond diet and exercise, there's growing interest in exploring how other factors like stress management and sleep quality might influence adipokine function.
It seems like we're just beginning to understand the intricate web of factors that influence this delicate metabolic dance.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
And as we learn more, we'll gain even greater insights into how to optimize metabolic health and potentially prevent or even reverse conditions like insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes.
Well, my mind is officially blown by all of this incredible information. It's amazing to realize how much power we have to influence our own metabolic health through our lifestyle choices.
I agree. It's empowering to know that we can take an active role in shaping our metabolic destiny.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. We've covered so much ground, and I'm sure our listeners are eager to hear your final thoughts on this fascinating topic.
I think the most important takeaway is that our fat cells are not just passive bystanders. They're active participants in our metabolic health, producing these powerful signaling molecules that influence a wide range of bodily functions.
That's such a paradigm shift. It makes you realize that there's so much more going on beneath the surface than we often realize.
Absolutely. And as we've discussed, while there's still much to learn, we already have a solid understanding of some key players like leptin, adiponectin, resistin, and visfatin.
Right. And while the science can feel complex, the message is ultimately one of hope and empowerment.
Yeah,
We can make conscious choices to support healthy adipokine function and take charge of our metabolic health.
I couldn't agree more. It's all about taking that knowledge and turning it into actionable steps towards a healthier, more vibrant life.
Well said. This deep dive has been truly illuminating. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this journey into the fascinating world of adipokines and insulin signaling. If you're eager to learn more, we encourage you to explore some of the specific adipokines we've discussed today. There's a wealth of research out there waiting to be discovered.
And as always, remember that knowledge is power when it comes to your health.
Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.
Goodbye for now.
Wow. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to look at my snack drawer a little differently.
Yeah.
Who knew that fat cells were such chatterboxes?
It really changes your perspective, doesn't it?
Eh,
And we've only just begun to understand this intricate language of adipokines.
exactly. As we wrap up our deep dive, what would you say is like the most mind-blowing takeaway for our listener today? The one thing you really hope they'll remember about adipokines.
Yeah. I think what really stands out to me is how much power we actually have to influence these systems. We talk about lifestyle changes, potential medications, even the impact of diet on adipokine levels. It's not just about genetics or fate. We can actually make choices that can nudge these adipokines in a healthier direction.
That's such a powerful message. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the science, but ultimately it gives us agency, right? We're not just passengers, like
Exactly.
this metabolic journey.
Exactly. And the more we learn about these systems, the more informed those choices become. Even simple things like swapping out that sugary soda for a glass of water or taking a brisk walk after dinner can have a ripple effect on these very intricate processes.
It's incredible to think that those small, everyday decisions could be influencing the messages our fat cells are sending.
It really speaks to the interconnectedness of our bodies, doesn't it? Everything is linked, and these adipokines are a prime example of that intricate web.
Yeah, I love that visual, this intricate web of communication happening within us all the time. It makes you appreciate the complexity of the human body in a whole new way.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And the more we understand those connections, the better we can care for ourselves. It's about moving beyond that simplistic view of, calories in, calories out, and recognizing that our metabolism is a dynamic, responsive system influenced by a multitude of factors.
This deep dive has definitely opened my eyes to that complexity. So as we leave our listener to ponder all of this, what's one question you'd like to leave them with? Something to spark their curiosity and keep them exploring this world of adipokines?
I'd ask them to think about this. If you could choose one adipokine to boost or balance in your own body, which one would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
It makes you think about the unique roles each of these messengers play and how they contribute to our overall health. And for anyone listening who's feeling inspired to learn more, I highly recommend checking out Assay Genie's website. They've got a ton of great resources that break down all this science in a really accessible way.
excellent suggestion. There's
Yeah.
a whole world of fascinating research out there, and it's constantly evolving.
Well, this has been an incredible journey into the world of adipokines and insulin signaling. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and for guiding us through this intricate dance of metabolic messengers.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive. Keep those questions coming, keep exploring, and keep taking charge of your health. Until next time.
Bye for now.